Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Dr. Greg Usher. I'm an Executive General Manager with RPS and I spent the last few years completing my PhD in Project Management through the University of Southern Queensland. It's great to be here with you today and to have the opportunity to talk with you about what I've learned through that process, and in particular to present to you my value model for project management. But look, just between you and me, if I can be completely frank, our time together today does present me with a challenge. And the challenge, I think, is unique to our profession. It's a challenge that's perplexed project management researchers and practitioners and presenters for decades. It's a challenge that can best be explained in the poem by John G. Saxby that goes like this. It was the 6 wise men of Indostan, of learning much inclined, who went to see the elephant, though all of them were blind, that each by observation might satisfy his mind. The first approached the elephant, and happening to fall against its broad and sturdy side, at once began to bawl, God bless me! An elephant is nothing but a wall. The second, feeling of the tusk, cried, Ho, what have we here? So very round and smooth and sharp, to me it's mighty clear. This wonder of an elephant is nothing but a spear. The third approached the elephant, and the squirming trunk did take. I see, cried he, the elephant is nothing but a snake. The fourth reached out his eager hand and felt about the knee. Aha, he thought, an elephant is nothing but a tree. The fifth, who chanced upon the ear, said, deny the fact who can. This marvel of an elephant is nothing but a fan. The sixth no sooner had begun about the beast to grope, that seized upon the swinging tail that fell within his scope. Aha, he cried, an elephant is nothing but a rope. And so these 6 wise men of Indostan disputed loud and long, each in his own opinion exceeding stiff and strong, though each were partly right and all of them were wrong. So often in philosophic wars the disputants, I ween, tread on in utter ignorance of what each other mean, and prate about an elephant that not one of them has seen. And this, dear colleagues, is the challenge of our profession. You see, if we were together face to face today and I was to say, how many of you are project managers? No doubt there'd be a lot of hands go up. But if I was to dig deeper, if I was to start asking questions about the best methodology or best framework or best processes to do project management, then the cracks would begin to appear in the group. And the more pointed my questions became, the more fractured the group would get. And on and on and on, until one point we realised the truth. There is no such thing as a normal project manager. We're a group of people who face unique challenges every day. And while we might adopt similar frameworks and processes, these always need to be tailored every time we have a new project. There is no one-size-fits-all system that we can adopt. And this leads us to the inevitable conclusion that there is no one right way to do project management. So this leads me back to my challenge today. How do I share lessons with a group of project managers whose experiences can be so fundamentally different to my own? In fact, the only way that I can maintain credibility as an objective academic is by telling you this. What I'm about to tell you is not industry best practice. At best, it's thought leadership. My objective here today is to open your eyes to another part of this elephant that we call project management. But it's you, the community of practitioners, who need to test it. You need to explore and challenge what I'm about to say. Who knows? It could turn out that I'm a stark raving lunatic and that everything I'm about to say here today should be relegated to the loony bin. Or it could turn out that I'm onto something that could change the project management world and start to fill in some gaps about our particular elephant. You know the real exciting bit? I actually have no idea which category I fall into. Only time will tell. So let's start by reviewing 2 of my projects and look at what happened and what that might mean. Our first story today is the case of the disappointing success. Our cast includes the sponsors rep, the design team, the contractors, our users group, the project team, and one devilishly handsome project director. The scene opens with our heroes, the project team and the project director, commissioned to provide a training facility for a government agency. The project seems easy. We have $8 million in 24 months to complete the project using a traditional methodology. Now, for those of you who are not in the construction industry, the traditional methodology is where the project management team procures the designers and oversees the design process, and then we procure the contractors and oversee the construction. For the team that I've assembled, this is a walk in the park. This is not our first rodeo. We have the team, we have the smarts, and we have the technology. But as with any good story, unbeknownst to the heroes, a villain is already lurking in the opening scenes. And about 3 months into the design process, the sponsor rep has a personal emergency that requires him to step down from the project. He leaves and a new sponsors rep comes in. But our heroes press on undaunted, knowing that they have what it takes to succeed. And then disaster strikes. In unison, all of humanity hears the sound of defecation striking rotary blades simultaneously around the world. The global financial crisis hits. As a result, the federal government panics. Word comes down from the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, cut project spending. Overnight, our project budget is slashed by 33%. This is particularly troubling for us because we've just finalised the procurement for the contractor and have literally just executed a contract for the full amount. But our heroes spring into action. We call emergency meetings with the designers and contractors. We bring in the user group and the new sponsors rep. Together we work tirelessly to create a revised scope that gives us maximum utility for the facility and drops out anything that's not considered mission critical. We have a solution. We get the new plan, we get the budget, we get the new scope, all approved by the sponsor, and we press on. We end up bringing the project in about 2 days ahead of the revised baseline and just under the budget. Booyah! Backslapping all round. Great work, team. A few months later, we bring the team back together to do what we call a post-occupancy evaluation. The purpose of this meeting is to debrief the project. We talk about the lessons learned through the project and we review the functionality of the facility. At this stage, our ring-in sponsors rep has been reassigned, so the original sponsors rep has come back. We go through the formal process and everybody's telling one another what a great job they did. And then the villain of our story gets up to speak. Now keep in mind, he's not been involved in the scramble to reframe the project into the new constraints. He just turns up after we're done. Well, this little ray of sunshine just lets loose. He talks about everything that's been cut from the project. He talks about how entire buildings have been removed from scope. He rages about the loss of utility and finishes by saying, I don't know why we didn't just shelve the whole thing when the budget got cut. We've just spent $5 million on a facility that's practically useless. We can imagine my reaction. Here we are after his boss cut our funding. We jumped through all sorts of legal hoops and negotiations to amend an already executed contract after I personally had asked everybody to step up and help solve a particularly difficult challenge not of their making. And despite all of that, we still managed to deliver the project on time under the new approved budget and achieve the new approved scope. And I'm just sitting there thinking, are you serious, buddy? Don't you understand that this is exactly how we define success in project land? I think what you mean to say was, great work, team, you did a brilliant job. And then you pat me on the back, sit your bum in the seat, and be deliriously happy with my outcome. I mean, seriously, this guy. Our next story is the case of the delightful failure. Once again, our cast involves our heroes. We also have a different, yet somehow strangely similar looking design team. We have a new but equally confused group of users. A governance hierarchy that consists of 5 layers of representatives from 10 departments, most of who've never been involved in a construction project in their lives and have never dealt with a debt larger than their home mortgage. Of course, once again, we have the fearless leader. Our scene opens with our heroes engaged by a not-for-profit organisation who want to explore the possibility of creating a cutting-edge, world-class intergenerational health precinct. The project team need to deliver the initial feasibility, 4 master planning options and the final business case. We have a budget of $350,000 and 12 weeks to do the task. So we get cracking. Without a doubt, the most difficult part of the project is managing the governance team. I spend hours, make that days, talking them through fundamental issues involved with financing and planning constraints and contracting options and different project decisions. But I didn't just have to do this once. No. I get to say the same thing to different people in a seemingly continuous round of sponsor meetings, project control meetings, and various informal meetings. Over and over and over again. But eventually, as all good things must, the projects come to an end. Under my illustrious leadership, the project is a total failure. I overran the budget by 40% and managed to cram a 12-week program into 30 weeks. Then came the time for the post of occupancy evaluation, and I braced myself for the onslaught. Well, let me tell you, that governance team, they took one look at the cost overrun and the blowout in time, and they gushed about what a great project this had been. They talked about how fantastic the team was and how much they enjoyed the experience. And then they followed this up by engaging my firm on 12 new projects. All of this is happening around me, and I'm just thinking, huh? In both cases, I'm left lost and confused. There's obviously a large part of this elephant that I'm not seeing. I mean, what the heck is going on? So these two projects in particular became the basis for my research. And throughout my research, I kept asking the same basic question. What am I missing here? After years of watching project managers do what they do, I feel the answer to that question has to do with one idea, the idea of value. The concept of value is not new in project management circles, but using the term like we do creates some problems. You see, the term value has more than one meaning. Sometimes it means cost and sometimes it means worth, but sometimes it means something completely different. And to truly have a conversation about value, we need to know exactly what we're talking about. If we don't, we end up with one person holding the trunk and one person holding the tail, but both arguing about how the other one knows nothing at all about elephants. So let's have a look at this idea of value in Western thinking. The first perspective is functional value. This view of value is based on Adam Smith's economic perspective. The central theme of the economic perspective is exchange. What am I willing to exchange to have the use of that product or item? When we think about value using a functional perspective, we use terms like cost and worth. However, there is another way to define value. This is what we call the representational value. This understanding of value can be seen in philosophic positions such as Hegel's phenomenological perspective. The central theme in the representational perspective is experience. In other words, how does this make me feel? When we think of value using the representational perspective, we use terms like meaning, fulfillment, and satisfaction. Confused yet? Well, I'm not surprised. So let me give you an example of how these two perspectives of value work. Let's say a jeweler decides to make a ring. Now she knows exactly how much it costs. The gems, the gold, her time. Let's say it costs $300 to make. But that doesn't mean she's willing to exchange it for that amount. So she puts the ring for sale and says that it's worth $1,000. Now let's say a young guy comes along and he wants to marry his partner. He agrees that the ring is worth $1,000 and he proposes. She says yes. Happy days, hugs and kisses all round. Now let me ask you, if I came along the next day and offered his new fiancée $1,200 for her ring, do you think she would sell it to me? Why not? Because the value that the ring represents is more than the value of the ring based purely on an assessment of its worth and cost. So herein lies the missing pieces of our elephant. When we deliver projects, we need a far broader understanding of value than we currently have. We need to understand how value is both created and co-created through a project. So what's the difference between created value and co-created value? Well, I'd wager that most of us understand value in project management circles as functional value. We're used to the idea of creating cost plans and value management and scheduling. In fact, I would go as far as to say that once we've been given the scope and budget and time constraints, I pretty much have things covered from there. In other words, when we're talking about the functional side, we can create value without needing much help from others. Now, let me just say this. Please don't LinkedIn spam me after this. I'm deliberately oversimplifying this to make a point. Okay, so what about the other type of value? What about this idea of representational value? If you've been a project manager for any length of time, you will have come into contact with this side of the value equation. This is where we run up against things like unspoken expectations, the meaning that people are deriving from the project outcomes, and of course the fact that people can fulfill personal drivers by being involved in a project. Drivers like recognition, the need for challenges, and even friendship and camaraderie. But the real rub here is that you can't create that value on your own. And what's more, neither can they. In order to generate this type of value, people need to work together. Or to put it another way, this type of value can only be co-created. Now I know what you're thinking. Congratulations, Greg. After years of research and study, you've managed to discover project management soft skills. Well, first of all, let me say this. Nobody likes a cynic. Secondly, I can tell you that categorically, despite all the research and literature that's been generated into soft skills in project management over the past few decades, it appears that the project management community can agree on only three things. 1, soft skills are crucial to developing value in projects. 2, no one is entirely sure what they are. And 3, there is no holistic model out there in the literature that helps us frame when, how, and why we use project management soft skills. This whole class of skills is very much left to the don't worry, you'll figure it out approach. So what does this mean? Well, it means just like project management itself, the whole idea of soft skills in project management has become its very own elephant. But don't despair, I have something that might help. But I'm not going to show it to you just yet until we talk about this. The project management life cycle. Some of you may be familiar with the project management life cycle. Now, this is completely different to a project life cycle that covers things like initiation and planning, execution, monitoring, controlling, and closure. The project management life cycle has 7 phases. And these are wild enthusiasm, unadulterated panic, reviewing your career options, pulling yourself together, deciding that you can do the completion of the project, completing the project, and doing the lessons learned. Or as it's better known in the industry, crucifixion of the project team. Now, many of you are probably smirking at the project management life cycle because you've lived it. All of us know that sense of panic that sets in when we take on a new project. And that sense of panic is real. And that's how we feel as trained professionals. We're the ones with the skills and experience and systems and processes to manage this hairy beast. And it can send us into a spin. Can you imagine how impossible this thing looks if you don't have that training? Or worse yet, if you've been assigned the project and your career prospects hinge on its success. Quite frankly, it can be debilitating. You can have literally no idea what to do or how to get started. And this brings us to our model. Right at the core of the model is confidence. I'm a firm believer that the most important role we have as project managers is to create confidence amongst chaos. Confidence that this massive beast can be wrangled and eventually tamed. We need to create confidence, we need to build confidence. We need to be the visionary and a guide and the cheerleader that gives everyone the confidence that this project can be done, that tells them success is possible, that they can survive this, and if done right, they might even enjoy it. Above all else, creating confidence is our goal, so it goes right at the centre. But there's more to confidence than just being at the centre of our model. I want you to think as this is a centrepiece like a lock, a combination lock on a vault. The position of this lock determines whether your job as a project manager will be easy or difficult. If the confidence lock is closed, no one trusts you. Every decision you make will be questioned. Every challenge that the team faces will seem insurmountable. The whole project will be like pushing the proverbial uphill. But if the confidence lock is released, your stakeholders will listen to you. They will value your experience. They will accept your explanation for why things don't go according to plan. In short, you'll have the emotional capital you need to grease the project machine and keep it running. So immediately surrounding this confidence lock is competency. Competency is your ability to actually do the job. It comes from your training, it comes from years of experience and from the school of hard knocks. Competency can be demonstrated through your previous experience and your qualifications and even the third-party accreditation through bodies like the AIPM. You can think of competency as the right to even be playing on the field. Combined with competency is the concept of championing. Now, this is your ability to apply your competency to achieve someone else's goal. You can have all the competency in the world, but what value is that if you're not willing to bring it to someone else's project outcome? You need to prove to everybody in the project that you're willing to apply your competency for the good of their project. Now, together, these two elements create the value in your projects. Your competency and your willingness to apply those skills to someone else's project is not determined by the other person's subjective assessment of value. It's functional. All it takes to create value is that you know what you're doing and that you're willing to apply that to a project. However, as we know, there's more to value than just the functional aspect. This is why our model has another level. And this level is value co-creation. This is the part that we cannot do on our own. And it's designed to draw stakeholders in and to create an experience that represents value for them. The first one is connection. In order to gain value from any experience, we have to be connected to it. We have to have an emotional attachment to it. As project managers, we need to create that connection. Sometimes it's difficult, but it's not impossible. One simple way that we can do this is by letting people feel what it's like to be a project manager. When I was doing my research, I asked a lot of project managers if and why they liked their jobs. In over 100 interviews, not one of them said, "I love this profession because I have an insatiable desire to create Gantt charts." What they did say was things like, "I love the challenge. I love the variety. I love that sense of satisfaction when I finish a project." The simple fact is that we stay in this profession because there is something about this crazy world that fulfills our emotional drivers. And if that's true for you and I, what makes you think it's any different for the others involved in the project? So how do we co-create a valuable project experience for people? Well, we let them get involved in the wild ride. We let them experience some of the highs and lows. We let them feel some of the challenges of project work. We expose them to this glorious mess that is the project. The next element is comprehend. In order to gain value from any experience, we need to be able to comprehend what's going on. Now, comprehending is completely different to being aware of something or even believing in something. I grew up right here in Queensland. In the depths of winter, the temperature outside might get as low as 10 degrees Celsius. Some years ago, I was invited to present my research at Nankai University in China. My wife and I Googled the temperature in China at the time when we were going to be there, and we found out that it can get as low as negative 10 degrees Celsius. So sitting in my nice warm house in Queensland, I was now aware that the temperature could be negative 10. Not only that, but I believed that it would be. But neither being aware of that nor the belief meant anything to me. It wasn't until I walked out of the international airport and thought my internal organs would snap freeze that I comprehended just how cold negative 10 degrees Celsius is. So what does this look like in a project? Well, some of you may have heard of COVID-19. Because of the pandemic, we had restricted imports coming into Australia, and as a result, the delivery of some of my floor tiles on one of my projects was going to be delayed. And I needed to tell the sponsor. So the conversation goes something like this. I said, "I was advised this morning that the floor tiles will be delayed." The sponsor said, "That's awareness and belief." I said, no, the supply of the floor tiles is on our critical path. And the sponsor said, "Okay, that's awareness and belief." So I said, "No, that means completion is going to be delayed by 6 weeks." And the sponsor said, "What? We can't be delayed that long. We have to have the building open by October." Bingo. That's comprehension. Now, one of our main functions as project managers is to create a shared contextual knowledge. We need to convert what's happening in the project into a language that others can comprehend. Sometimes this means converting technical knowledge into simple terms or translating project issues into things like time and cost impacts. We translate jargon, we build knowledge bridges, and we explain complex issues in small bite-sized pieces. And we have to do this so that everybody in the project can comprehend what's happening. The final piece in our model is collaboration. As humans, we're hardwired to solve problems and overcome challenges. We literally can't help ourselves. That's why Candy Crush and crosswords and computer gaming all have such appeal. They present challenges that we can overcome and problems that we can solve. Now, collaboration is not the same thing as teamwork. Teamwork has everybody doing their part. It's a group of individuals working together for a common goal, but that's not collaboration. Let me give you an example to show you the difference. Suppose we've got two teams, Team A and Team B. Now, both teams consist of two people, a tall man and a short woman. Both teams are given the same objective. They have to run 100 metres as a team within 10 minutes, and there's only one constraint. For the task to be completed successfully, they have to cross the line at the same time as their teammate. So the man and woman in Team A elect to complete the task by holding one another's hand and running side by side. As you can imagine, they can complete the task within the allotted time quite easily. But Team B do things differently. They decide to do it as a three-legged race. So to do this, they strap their legs together and they put their arms around one another for balance. Then they'll need to strategise how they're going to move together and call out to one another each time they take a step so that they don't end up falling over. Team B will also complete the task easily. Now here's the difference. Although both teams completed the same task, their experience of the task is markedly different. Team A used teamwork. Both members understood their role and completed it successfully. The process was straightforward and relatively uncomplicated. Team A were able to achieve the task without any real need to strategise or communicate. But things were different over in Team B. They needed to discuss what they were going to do with each other. They were co-joined in the experience. So they needed to constantly communicate with one another. They needed to provide support to one another and remain in step with each other throughout the entire task. To foster value co-creation through our projects, we need to elevate people from the realm of teamwork and into the realm of true collaboration. Of course, we can't just go and strap their legs together and make them run 100 metres, as much fun as that might be. Instead, we can do things like this. We create opportunities for mentoring and coaching within the team. We reframe challenges in multiple contexts so that they can be seen from different perspectives. We make it okay to question facts and assumptions so the team can start to test hypotheses. We can see challenges as an opportunity for discovery and learning. And we reward the collective intelligence of the group, not the brilliance of a single member. Okay, so there we have it, my value model for project management. However, before we leave, I must give you one more instruction in the user's guide. When you go out and start applying this model, don't forget that we are trained professionals. We have experience and qualifications and training to handle projects and all the intrinsic messiness and challenges that brings. And while it is in our best interest to have people connected to our project or to help them comprehend what's happening and to have them collaborate with us to solve problems so that we can co-create value with them, never forget that they are not trained like we are. You need to balance the C's in the external ring with what they are ready to handle. Don't forget, what seems like an ankle-deep issue for you can very quickly make them feel like they're drowning. When that happens, the confidence lock will slam shut and that's game over. So what are the key takeaways from our time together? Well, the first thing is that project management is a huge beast. None of us can see the whole elephant. We need to be open to hear other ideas from other project managers about the insights and experiences. And if we do that, we'll get to better understand how to do this job. Next, we need to come to terms with the idea that value is both functional and representational, and that this means we need to focus on both value creation and value co-creation. If you forget everything else, please remember the importance of confidence and the impact of the confidence lock. If you don't release that lock, or if you fail to keep it open, you're in for some tough times. Finally, remember that we now have a model that will help us